If you're a maniacal, egotistical king whose people abandoned him, and all you had to your name was a giant iron ball, what would you do? In this video, we'll see whether we can beat Shotgun King with just a ball. Now, I know canonically that this ball is called the Royal Shotput on the actual card where you get the ball, but let's be honest, it's just a giant iron ball, so I'm just going to keep calling it the ball to not confuse anyone. There's a few things we need to know about the ball in order to beat this challenge. First of all, ground rules. We're not allowed to use any form of damage other than this ball in order to kill the king and progress through the floors. That means no shotguns, no grenades, no taunting hawk, no rats, no plague, no blade of any kind. All of those out the window. Only exception I will be making to this is King's Shoulders. Two specific reasons for that. First of all, King's Shoulders is a prerequisite for having the ball in the first place. Second of all, there's a way of using King's Shoulders that can be useful to us and not cause any actual damage to be triggered. When I say damage, I mean when those numbers come up on the pieces when you hit them. If we throw pieces off of the board, no damage numbers come up, therefore we did not damage them. I'm using this logic even though we know that we get their souls after we throw them off. I'm assuming their souls just get sucked out of their body when they're thrown off the board and we get those souls. Don't question it, this is just the logic I'm using because I want to take every advantage I can. A few things to note about the ball. The ball can be picked up and thrown as many times as we want, and it will always deal 3 damage whenever it hits a piece. A few quirks about the ball. Whenever the ball hits a piece and destroys it, it will take over the square that piece was on. So let's say we throw the ball at a pawn, which has 3 HP, pawn will get destroyed and it will take over that place where the pawn was standing. If the piece doesn't get destroyed, the ball will land in one tile away from that piece. It could land any of the squares adjacent to that piece. This is where the problems begin. Now, for most pieces, this isn't an issue. Knights it'll insta-kill, pawns it'll insta-kill, bishops can be easily maneuvered around. Rooks and queens are where the problem starts. Rooks aren't nearly as bad as queens, but they're also a bit of an issue. If you manage to hit a rook or a queen with this ball, since they have 5 HP, you won't be able to one-shot them. The ball could get sent over that piece to the opposite side, and then we have no way of getting to the ball. We will need a soul just to get around this piece, and that doesn't even ensure that we have the ball when we use the soul. So we have to position ourselves extremely well to make sure we don't run into these scenarios where we don't have the ball after hitting a rook or a queen. We have a few ways to get around this. Incredible positioning so that we know that the ball won't go over them and we'll still be able to grab the ball. We can reduce their HP down to 3 in order to one-shot them. This can be used by using ruins to get the rook's HP down to 3, or using subtle poison and secret mission in order to reduce the queen's HP to 3. Next, we could use a Black Mist build where we sacrifice our life to get one shot in, and then we grab the ball after respawning and kill them in the next hit. These are particularly useful for killing queens, especially in early game when you don't have all the cards necessary to get them down to a one-shot. And we happen to use the Black Mist build in this run here. Now, even though we're not allowed to use any other form of damage, we can, however, get a second ball. That'll be 100% right, alright, since we're still using balls in order to beat the game. But in order to get the second ball, we need to get King's Shoulders first. In the vanilla game, you need King's Shoulders. It's a prerequisite in order to even get the Royal Shotput in the first place. Luckily, in this run, we managed to get that on floor 5. One thing you'll notice throughout this run is that I always end up killing all of the pieces before I start targeting the king. This is specifically because when we're hitting the king with the ball, it's likely that the ball will be sent to the opposite end of the king. It could take over 12 turns to get the ball again after luring the king away from the ball and then circling around him. 12 turns is an inordinate amount of time, and more than likely the back rank pieces will surround you or the pawns will promote if you haven't already killed them by this point, which is why I tend to kill all of the pieces before I go for the king, unless it's a very unique scenario where I know I can kill the king before any of the pieces can get to me. Usually that doesn't happen though. I know you might be confused by a lot of the choices I make throughout this run, though many of them are just made because all the black cards we end up getting are just completely useless. A lot of the black cards in this game revolve around the shotgun and your ability to either increase their damage or increase their range or increase their arc or decrease their arc or whatever. And none of those things really matter for this run since we're using the ball as primary damage. So the black cards are pretty much irrelevant. A lot of the choices are based on what the white cards are and whether they increase the HP of the units. I couldn't afford to take bodyguard or pikeman or any of those cards that increase the pieces that we can already one-shot, because increasing any of these pieces by 1 HP is just a nightmare to deal with. Having pawns at 4 HP means I need to throw the ball twice at them, and that just isn't gonna work well. They would probably promote before I managed to kill all of them. The ball could end up getting stuck behind them because of how many random chances I'm gonna have with the ball going behind the pawns, and then I'm not gonna be able to get through them. It just throws the predictability of where the ball is gonna land completely out of whack, because I rely on the fact that the ball one-shots these specific pieces so that it overtakes that piece's square. It makes it predictable where the ball will be, so I can go pick it up and prepare for my next shot. It's the same reason why I couldn't take the card Undead Armies. The Undead Armies takes over the position of the back rank pieces except for the Queen when those pieces die. So when the Knight and Bishop die, a pawn will spawn where they died. And this completely throws off the predictability of the ball, because the ball does its thing where it goes to a random square adjacent of that piece because the pawn is spawning in where that piece died. So it doesn't do that thing it normally does where it takes over where the piece's position is. It completely throws off my game and makes the run just infinitely harder, so I avoid it at all costs. I also avoid picking up any card that has any blade increase. The main reason for this is because my muscle memory is so ingrained in me to just aim at the piece and throw it at him, that if I end up taking like Knight's Blade or Dagger, what ends up happening is that if a bishop gets dropped down to 1 HP, I'll instinctively try and throw the ball directly at the piece, but because it's adjacent to me, it'll use the blade to kill that piece. You can avoid this if you like throw the ball behind a piece and then it'll hit it, but my muscle memory is too ingrained in me, so I'll just end up killing it with blade. That's happened way too many times throughout my attempts of doing this run. You'll see that I picked up a highest dungeon on floor 7, I think it was. The reason I picked it up was because both choices were complete garbage. It was either I took the armor, and that permanently increases them by 1, and I don't have secret mission to counteract that card, or I take highest dungeon, which can be flipped if I kill the rooks. I have King's Shoulders, so I'm actually not that afraid of the rooks at this point. I could just throw them off the map and then instantly flip the card over. You might realize that, hey, this doesn't matter because you picked up a watchtower and now rooks are gonna spawn. The thing is that when the card initially flips, all the pieces' HP get reduced, and when the card unflips, they'll regain the max HP, but their HP wouldn't be healed up to 4 HP again. So knights will still have 3 HP, pawns will still have 3 HP. As long as I kill this first rook in time, I wouldn't have any problems. It's why I picked a highest dungeon over the armor. It was complete suicide if I took armor. I would have just lost, because knights are very, very, very annoying in this run. They chase you relentlessly if you can't kill them fast enough. And I would have been pushed into a corner and killed by the rook and queen, even with the King's Shoulders. One thing that was particularly screwing me over a little bit in this run was the fact that I had picked up Song of Justice. It was pretty necessary because that was the choice between plate or highest dungeon. But because I had to be so careful in my positioning to do stall shots. If you don't know, stall shots are taking shots and reloading 1 bullet at a time to stall for pieces to go into better positions for you. Is that now if I do a stall shot, I need to make sure that I'm in a position where I can do a stall shot without accidentally hitting a piece and not moving into checkmate. I had to be very careful in where I placed my crosshair to make sure I didn't hit any piece. I was very lucky that my range got reduced by my Black Mist, because there was a scenario where I was about to hit a piece, but because my range was reduced, I didn't hit them with a stall shot. The Song of Justice was just... it was just kind of... it was annoying, but it was manageable. I was very lucky that I managed to get a second ball. I do think that that second ball carried me pretty hard in the scenarios where the ball got lost behind another piece. It took a lot of the stress off of me. Having an extra soul slot was also pretty clutch. Sometimes you'll never know when you might need another soul to make a double maneuver or something. I was very annoyed at the fact Taunting Hop did 1 damage, because Taunting Hop would have been so good for this run if it didn't deal damage. I know I'm already taking liberties with using King's Shoulders so the OP is off the board, but I think it's fair considering the fact that it's a prerequisite for the ball in the first place, and the fact that it doesn't actually deal damage, it just sucks the soul out of pieces when they fall off the edge. I would say that the challenge was pretty much concluded on the 11th floor. The 11th floor was by far the hardest floor of this entire challenge. Even the boss floor was pretty mid compared to this. The rooks and queens and bishops were just relentless on this floor. I don't know what was happening. Nothing even changed from this floor and the previous floor because I took the witch card, which doesn't add any pieces, but I felt like I was getting pushed into a corner really, really badly on this floor. I think it just had to do with the positions of the ball at the beginning that prevented the queens from getting close to me, and I made some bad choices on doing stall shots instead of actually trying to take out pieces. But that's all in the past, whatever. I felt like I was getting pushed back into a corner on this floor, but still managed to get out. Though I do have to say that tragedy kind of struck at the end of this floor when I was basically guaranteed to win it. To put it simply, I was an idiot and I didn't put the ball in my hand before throwing it at the rook, so it took a shot instead and it killed both the rook and knight here. And some will be like, oh no, that's a challenge failed. Yes, the challenge has failed, but the name of the video is Can You Beat Shotgun King with Just the Ball? I could show you the exact way I would have done this. I would have picked up the ball, thrown it at the rook, the knight would have moved. I would have picked up the ball again, thrown it at the knight. If I needed to, I would have used one of their souls to escape the king and then killed him with the ball. You know, it's very obvious that I would have won at this point, which is why I just said screw it and carried on and went to the boss floor. I killed the boss with just the balls as well, so I think it's fine. The challenge, the name of the video is still solved in this. The name of the video is Can You Beat Shotgun King with a Ball? Which I proved to be yes. I'm just an idiot. That doesn't take away from the fact that you can still do it with just the ball. If you like this video, like and subscribe. That was fun. If you have any other challenges you want me to do, please comment down below. See you next time. Goodbye.